A couple weeks ago, producer Peter Frick-Wright and I gave a little pop quiz to OPB staff who've been on the radio, either, say, yesterday or years ago, like me.
Can we just jump into it?
Yes.
Yeah. KOPB FM Portland, KOAB FM Bend, KRBM FM Pendleton, KOBK FM Baker City, KTVR FM LeGrand, KOGL FM Glen Eden Beach, KOAP FM Lakeview, KTMK FM Tillamook, KOTD FM The Dalles, KOBN FM Burns, KOPB AM Eugene, KOAC AM Corvallis, KTMK FM Enterprise.
This is OPB, KOPB FM Portland, KOAB FM Bend, KRBM FM Pendleton, KOBK FM Baker City, KTVR FM LeGrand, KOGL FM Glen Eden Beach, KOAP FM Lakeview, KTMK FM Tillamook, KOBN FM Burns, KOPB AM Eugene, KOAC AM Corvallis, KOAC FM, I just blew it.
If you listen to OPB on the radio, you hear these station IDs once an hour as close to the top of the hour as possible. Doesn't it feel like you have these memorized? We thought so too. All right.
Every other?
Okay, let's do it together. Okay. KOPB FM Portland, KOAB FM Bend, KRBM FM Pendleton, KOBK
FM Baker City,
KTVR FM LeGrand.
LeGrand?
Yeah, KOAC
AM Corvallis. There's a KOAC FM somewhere.
It's Astoria.
Astoria, okay. This is not fair. I was a host for one summer of Morning Edition when I had to, and we have more IDs now than we did back then.
It's weird because I can totally do it. I've done it on bar bets. Yeah, like friends of mine have said, like, I will buy you a drink if you can recite it from memory. And I'm like,
exactly what I was just telling him. It's like, this is my party trick. I could
know,
do
it's
it.
My total party trick.
And like with my hands tied
but
behind
then
my
if
back.
I've got like the thing in front of me and I'm under pressure, then I crack.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I was so confident that I had them memorized. It's like, I still have them memorized. I'm Jen Chavez. I still have them memorized. And then we just tried to do it upstairs, and I did not even make it halfway through. From the Gert Boyle studio at KOPB FM Portland, this is The Evergreen, a podcast about all the different places around the region, too many to even remember, apparently, that you call home. Today on the show, why does OPB come to you from so many different stations? What does it take to keep all these signals up and running? And given that you can find us streaming day and night at opb.org, why do we go to the trouble? In the beginning, before there were more than a dozen station IDs to remember, there was just one, in Corvallis.
OPB started in Corvallis, on the campus, actually, of what was then Oregon Agricultural School.
Thor Wage is OPB's Director of Engineering.
This would be 1923, I think, when we actually went on the air as an experiment in the physics department, basically.
The earliest version of OPB was thanks to Oregon Agricultural College professor Jacob Jordan, who built a 50-watt transmitter by hand. The first broadcast was a football game on December 7th, 1922. A month later, in January 1923, it was licensed as KFDJ.
It was KFDJ for just a handful of years at different power levels as they hand-built transmitters and long wire antennas to create this AM signal, but it's almost always been on 550 kilohertz.
In 1925, Professor Jordan designed and built a more powerful transmitter, and KFDJ changed to KOAC for Oregon Agricultural College. Today, we know that school as Oregon State University.
As it grew and as the agricultural school started taking on the mission of education everywhere, one of their thoughts was education over the air. And so that's when it really started to take off and become what it is today.
Early on, as you might expect, that included programs geared towards farmers, like long-running show The Farm Hour. Though in the 40s, the station won a Peabody for a special report called Our Hidden Enemy, Venereal Disease, which was not exclusively about farmers. Around that same time in the 40s, the school built a studio in the physics building and 2 AM broadcast towers a quarter-mile away out in the middle of a field. The station began on AM radio because, at first, the goal was just to get the broadcast out to as many people as possible, and AM signals simply travel farther. AM stands for amplitude modulation, which means that information is encoded in the amplitude, basically the strength or height of the radio wave. And that's a pretty durable form of broadcast.
Propagation-wise, it can go a lot farther. It doesn't care if there's hills or dirt or anything in the way. It propagates as far as it's going to propagate.
In fact, AM signals travel so far that these days KOAC has to artificially limit how far they broadcast so that they don't interfere with other stations on the same frequency in, say, a different state.
There were other signals on 550 before us. So we have to try to protect them because AM has this quality that allows it at night, when there's no sun radiation interference, it'll bounce off that first layer of the ionosphere and come back down far, far away, farther than we intended to broadcast.
AM radio was the perfect technology for the early days of broadcasting, but it struggles in the modern world. Basically, anything that runs on electricity produces a field that competes with an AM signal. So over the years, as we've incorporated more and more electricity into our lives, the bands that AM can broadcast on have shrunk, which degrades the quality of the sound. You can understand what people are saying, but music doesn't sound right. That's why these days AM is mostly talk radio. In the 1980s, FM took over. FM stands for frequency modulation, which means that information is encoded in the frequency of the signal, basically how squiggly the radio wave is. You can put a lot more information in a tiny squiggle than a big wave, and squiggles don't care as much about electrical interference, so FM radio sounds better than AM radio. But the signal doesn't go as far.
FM really is line of sight. So number one, if you're in a perfect environment where you're just like down the hill from the antenna system and it's just up the hill and you can actually see the antenna, you're always going to have great coverage. But here in Oregon, we have a lot of mountains, essentially. And so mountains cause us the biggest problem, just dirt, physical dirt in the way of the signal getting there.
As a result, to cover the entire state, you need more stations broadcasting in more places without stepping on anyone else's frequency.
Honestly, we have to find that available channel in the areas that we're in to broadcast on.
Thor's team manages and maintains more than 80 transmitters, translators, and broadcast towers around the state. The best place for that kind of equipment is way up high, so a lot of it was built on the top of mountains, which means their job is maintaining electrical equipment in remote locations that are both prone to bad weather and hard to get to.
Might be a wooden shack or a tin shack, on a mountaintop somewhere here in Oregon with a small tower, which could be literally a utility pole, like a 30-foot utility pole, maybe the tower in this case.
Most of the damage these facilities sustain is weather-related, wind, ice, snow, but not all of it.
Snakes, things like that like to get into stuff too and wreak havoc. Mice, for whatever reason, mice like to eat wires. I don't know what's tasty about the outside of a wire jacket, but they like to eat wires. And so Now your electrical's damaged, so now you're working on fixing that too.
In fact, it's not so far off to picture Thor leading a crack team of engineers and maintenance technicians in an ongoing battle against the elements.
Yeah, some of the places we go to, it's like after people because nobody goes up there. So you're like hacking your way into a site to go work on a transmitter.
Dwayne Irvin is OPB's acting chief engineer for the Western region. His team covers the Willamette Valley and the coast, which means they deal with more bugs than snakes.
Once the bugs get inside your equipment, that doesn't work out good for nobody. You know, they're going to catch fire and then they're going to blow up. Like they actually blow up inside your equipment, which is crazy.
On the job postings for Dwayne and Thor's teams, preferred qualifications include experience snowshoeing and off-road driving. Training includes wilderness survival, first aid, and fixing a snowcat. It's rugged.
One time we were out with a contractor and we were installing a cradle point, which is it gives us the ability to access it remotely through cell signals. So we're up on this hill me and this guy putting this thing in, and we finally get it in. We've been out there working for probably like 2 hours, putting antennas on, stuff like that. And then we go down, turn a corner, and less than a block from where we were working is a family of bears. Ever since then, whenever I go to that spot, I always make sure I honk my horn very loudly, and I'm very loud when I get out of my car because the last thing I want to do is sneak up on a family of bears.
3 bears, to be exact, which is appropriate since Dwayne's job is making sure broadcast equipment doesn't get too hot and doesn't get too cold. It needs to stay just right. For the most part, it does, and we stay on the air. Except this one time. After the break, a failure so catastrophic, no one knew what to do. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB about the place you call home. If you dig what you hear, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll brighten your Monday morning a little bit with something new and exciting you might not have thought of before each week. And remember, this episode about the brave engineers who make sure OPB's little radio waves reach your ears and all the great OPB reporting and storytelling you hear on this show is made possible by the support of many thousands of OPB members. Just like all those radio transmitters, you're the network that helps boost our signal to everyone who needs it. Support our journalism by becoming an OPB sustaining member today at opb.org/pod. And now, back to the show. When a radio station goes off the air, it's not always a matter of nature taking over at some remote wilderness outpost. A lot of the time, it's not the transmitter, but rather a problem somewhere between the studio and the broadcast tower.
The terminology for all of this is STL for studio to transmitter link.
Most of the time, the programming you hear on the radio is delivered to the tower via the regular old internet. But since the internet sometimes goes down, Thor and his team have a variety of backup delivery methods, like super high-frequency pinpoint microwave broadcasts, essentially beaming the signal straight to the tower.
We use microwave signals, so in this case, a lot of stuff is in the 900 megahertz range, or in some cases we use stuff that's all the way up in the 2 gigahertz range.
The problem with these super tight, almost laser beam broadcasts, however, is that as radio frequencies get higher, radio signals get more fragile. They can start to have problems with obstacles as simple as trees.
Some of the stuff that we have that's in the higher bandwidth like this, we have some 7 gig microwave signals. And yeah, if you have a tree that gets wet, you can't get a signal through it.
As you might imagine, trees in the Willamette Valley and the Coast Range do sometimes get wet.
We try to be very serious about having multiple methods. I mean, in some cases, we're just at an end-of-a-line situation. So, some of the really remote areas, there may only be one delivery method. But we are working on trying to change that in some way.
In addition to the microwaves, OPB's transmitters have been getting equipment that connects them directly to cell phone towers, so that if someone takes a shovel to some fiber optic cable, you can still hear Think Out Loud. One of the few transmitters without any kind of backup system, however, is the first one, 550 AM Corvallis, KOAC. After all, the towers are a quarter mile from the station, in a field on the OSU campus. What could go wrong?
The 550 AM array is on a farm. They were putting in new water lines, and they thought they knew where everything was buried, but they were wrong.
So they go to put in their new irrigation system, and as they were trenching it out, they cut right through our broadcast lines.
They put their backhoe right through it, lifted it up out of the ground, severed it, then contacted one of the other engineers that I work with. They asked, is this important? They were like, oh yeah, that's kind of important.
We go over there and, sure enough, we're off the air as you'd expect.
That's a disaster where you're trying to salvage what still works, what doesn't. How can we get on the air temporarily?
So we had to go through and rebuild the entire broadcast system. There was no way to repair them because you would have to find line that had been buried for 20 years in the same dirt to repair them. Otherwise, you have such an impedance mismatch if you went to go patch the lines that the signal wouldn't get through.
So the site itself was built in 1940, 1941. The coax that we were currently using that was going out to those towers is actually not from that era. It was from 1975, 76, if I remember right.
Quick note, if you don't know what an impedance mismatch or coax is, that's okay. It's simpler than you might think.
So back in the old days when they built this place, they built it out of plumbing pipe. So it was actually, the transmission lines were just plumbing, like copper pipe that you got at a plumbing store.
We're talking capacitors you can hold in your hand that are not like little tiny circuit board components, but glass capacitors that are, the size of a softball or bigger.
This is giant pieces of copper that you've smashed together and then put a screw in them so they don't go apart. It is like you need a carpenter and a plumber out there to fix the problem.
Because that new coax is going in, everything mathematically, we had to work with a firm that kind of specializes in AM array design to help us kind of get everything back the way it was before.
It is a crazy black magic to get AM to work. But it took 2.5 years to totally rebuild that, test it out, get everything tuned up properly, and now we're just on the air working.
So that was a first for me because I've never done anything to that. I've done a lot of repairs on AM towers, components, transmitters before, but nothing where you're basically kind of building it almost from scratch like that was pretty, it was a thing.
You may be thinking, is one AM radio station going off the air really such a big deal? Who even listens to AM radio anymore?
What is its place in the world right now? That's a hard one because, I'm 52. My kids are in their 20s. They're not exactly listening to AM radio in this day and age, but that doesn't mean that it's not something that could be valued in an emergency situation. I mean, all the Red Cross and all these, they're always telling you to keep that portable radio with you.
Because AM signals carry farther, you need fewer working towers to get a message out across the state.
I mean, if you think about it, 91.5 here in Portland on the FM dial, just because of distance and terrain issues and things, pretty hard to hear in Corvallis. But 550 in Corvallis, it comes in pretty good in Portland.
And remember how big and thick the components are on an AM tower? Those are less likely to break.
For FM, it's a very tall tower you're dealing with. A catastrophic earthquake, that tower might not be there. Whereas AM, the towers are tall, but, it's kind of different. And the loading, the physical things attached to the tower, there was not much attached to a lot of them for AM. So the odds of them still being there are probably better than the FM tower in some ways.
Even FM radio towers, Thor says, are still more robust than cell phone towers.
So we have generators at our site, so if we lose power, we can stay on the air. Cell phone carriers, they'll probably poo-poo this, but they aren't as robust from the standpoint of they don't always have generators at their sites. A few years ago in my community that I live in, Woodburn, we had a really bad ice storm, and it took out power for 6 days, and in some places in Woodburn, 7-8 days until they got power. I can tell you after 2 days, the cell phone stopped working because they didn't have generators at the cell phone towers in my community. They had battery banks that were keeping things running, but they're meant to keep things running for like small outages, not huge power outages.
This network of towers and transmitters that OPB maintains isn't just for emergencies. In a lot of places that OPB covers, both AM and FM radio are a vital form of connection to the world.
We provide a service for people that have limited options. We do. And we make sure that we are providing not only entertainment, but information, which is really important. I mean, we go places where, the phones don't work so great.
OPB began as a way to provide education over the air. But it turns out education is also the key to keeping it on the air. Whether the technology is 100 years old or 100 days old, whether the problem is bugs or bears or backhoes, it's always finding new ways to fail. It's kind of like doing the station IDs from memory. You think you have it, and then suddenly you don't.
That's one of those biggest pieces of advice that I always, younger people in this industry, I always tell them, never stop learning, because the minute you do, you don't know anything.
To learn even more about what OPB tower engineers do, you can find a 2017 video about their jobs made by OPB Oregon Field Guide producer Joel Gilfillan in our show notes or at opb.org. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB about the place you call home. Peter Frick-Wright produced this episode, and our technical director is Stephen Cray. He also mixed and mastered the episode. The OPB podcast team also includes Mia Estrada, Julie Sabatier, and Sage Van Wing. Peter Frick-Wright did the interviews you heard. The music in this episode comes from Audio Network. And if you have a question for us, please reach out. Send us an email at theevergreen@opb.org. If it's about the technical nuances of our radio broadcast signal, I can't promise I'll know the answer, but that's why we've got folks like Thor and Dwayne on our team. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.
There's a new Fiesta in the making as we speak. It's out at the Moon Tower. Full kegs. Everybody's gonna be there. You ought to go.